Welcome to the wide world of snowboard gear polyamory. I'm your Me Harmony profile guy, James Beastie, and next to me is Davey Boy.
And while we keep the relationship with gear open, we are spiritually engaged to the turn.
And this is the Hovercraft 2.0, updated for 2024. Whole new Hovercraft.
Yeah, I rode this with my Burton Ion boots, Union Force bindings, and I got this out in some all-time spring conditions on Mount Bachelor. Epic slush fest. I did not get this out in any powder though, so sorry about that.
I did though. I rode this with Union Atlas, Nidecker Rift Lace, and Ride Fuse. I got this in a wide variety of conditions, everything from some decent powder, a little thick, but very deep, some good groomers, and some okay groomers. The Hovercraft 2.0 in a 56 fit me just as well as the 156 1.0 did. I would say, if anything, this feels even a little bit more comfortable for me and my specs than the older model did.
I'm 6'4", 235 pounds. I got a size 12 boot and this 160. Edge to edge, it engaged really smoothly and quickly. Didn't feel too wide at all. Definitely wasn't too skinny. Didn't boot out or get any toe or heel drag.
When it comes to the shape, the old Hovercraft was very directional, very set back. But this new Hovercraft, it feels more directional. It feels a little more turny and surfy than it used to. You have a camber profile that's pretty much cambered to the tail, but it's mellow, going to about the front binding, then it rockers up and spoon noses up. So what was cool though is on groomers, I didn't feel the spoon tech in the effective edge where the camber was very much or at all. And it doesn't seem like there's any spoon tech in the tail. So it has that mellow directional camber feel. It doesn't feel too locked in or technical, but it's not like super easy skid turny either.
Yeah, I think the on snow feel for this thing is just aggressive. It wants to charge.
Definitely got a lot more give than the older Hovercraft. The last few years, it's gotten a little softer and it's not as stiff as it used to be, but it's still a very damp personality. There's a lot of give back. I could butter off this, no problem. I could engage this in an ollie pretty easy, and I'm not Mr. Strong Rider in either situation.
Yeah, I thought this board had pretty good pop, especially for the tail being a little shorter in the more directional shape. It's not the poppiest tail, but it launches pretty well. I think you're definitely getting more spring out of the center of the board than you are in the tail when you're flexing into an ollie.
The base glide's always exceptional with Jones boards. I love the old black bases. This is like a white base now. That's okay, and it still has great base glide. But if you want an even faster base, you want to go to the Jones Ultracraft. You get more pop, but you get less dampness.
Yeah, I thought this board was great at speed. It is definitely a charger, definitely down the line, and it is damp and stable. So it feels very comfortable charging. In the uneven terrain too, I took this off the backside of Summit. My first lap was a little early, so it was still icy and kind of firm and pretty chundery. And this thing did all right. The nose was definitely a little bit chattery, more chattery than I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't a knock off of it. I feel like most boards in that situation would be a little chattery. But then once I went back down the second run and things had softened up a little bit, this just blasted through all the uneven snow that I went through. Total chunder buster. Yeah, this board definitely wants to go over uneven snow at speed. It doesn't want to like side slip over it. It wants to be ridden over some uneven snow.
And when it comes to edge hold, very good, slightly disrupted side cut that grips pretty well in hard, bordering on icy snow. It's not the most disrupted like the Canoe Gremlin with its super disrupted side cut, but this is no slouch either. And when it comes to turn initiation, I liked the Hovercraft 2.0 a little better than the Hovercraft. I felt like it engaged a turn quicker. And when you got it on edge, I felt like I could across the groomer carve a little better with this. This still isn't a circle carver. This still isn't really an across the groomer carver. This is definitely more on the straight liney side of the turning experience. But now it's a little more balanced than it was before, and I like that for tourney riders like myself. It's got good spring out of the turn. I set it up posy and I could drive off the front foot pretty well through the turn, but sometimes I liked the overall turning experience weighting back foot out of the turn. I like that a little more personally, but it's not the ultra tapered, ultra washy kind of ride.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna lay those deep trenches like a really tight across the groomer turn, you're definitely, one, need speed, and two, you're gonna want to weight that back foot a little heavier.
And if you like a little bit more of that turning experience, then you might want to go Mind Expander or Ultra Mind Expander. And when it comes to powder, this has a very good setback on board versus setback on side cut. You're really riding near the tail, and I could feel that in pretty thick, pretty deep powder I got it in. You can feel that early rise in the nose too. You can feel the taper. The tail sinks a little more than the older Hovercraft, but it's still a floater. It's still deserving of its name. The spoon nose makes the turning experience a little easier in powder than it is on groomers. It's still not a tree cheetah, but it's much better than it used to be with the old Hovercraft. I like this powder experience better with the Hovercraft 2.0 than I did the old Hovercraft. And overall, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what they did with the flagship a few years back, where they gave it some more taper, a slightly different shape. And I think what they did with this is really good.
Yeah, overall, I love this board. I think if you're looking for something to charge hard with, this is a great option. Personally, I almost feel like they should call this the Gnarly Craft instead of the Hovercraft, because this thing charges. I'm sure it hovers on powder, but when you're on groomers, this thing's a beast. It doesn't really want to like just playfully hover around like I was kind of thinking looking at the UFO graphic on the bottom. It's more like a jet boat.